All right, let's talk about Tua here, who had I don't know, is he an MVP candidate? Is he an MVP favorite at this point? It's definitely worth having the discussion. The Dolphins offense in general, though, is going to be what we're talking about, as they spotted Carolina 14 points right off the bat and then proceeded to just dominate the rest of the way. Let's talk about what makes them so effective. First, starting off with this play, which is kind of a bit of a play on something we're seeing happen across the league now, is guys are kind of, the route you see on the screen is not an unusual thing. Route over the middle against zone coverage. See this all the time. But what's kind of the interesting thing here is how Tyreek Hill started in motion towards the bottom of the screen, but now is going back towards the top of the screen. Because you're seeing teams, that's the new thing, is teams in motion. But Tyreek Hill isn't just going from one side to the other side. He kind of just moving him around in general, kind of causing Carolina just have a little bit of confusion, right? Try to get them just a half step out of position. Not that Tyreek Hill needs it, but hey, it always helps, right? And watch how, Tyreek Hill, I noticed the speed always gets talked about, but he's so quick. Those Carolina players over the middle were not aware of where he was going, and the defensive backs deep have to give him so much space because you can't let him get behind you. It's just such a deadly combination of having a great play caller who can get those players over the middle out of position, and Tyreek Hill, who you just can't come in on if you're a cornerback, because if you move in and he's running a deep route, well, then you've just given up a touchdown. On top of it, good throw by Tua, of course. Tua times these so perfectly, and he's always so accurate with this kind of stuff that obviously adds to the combination. This time, Carolina did a pretty decent job at tackling him, and it still was not easy, right? And they still needed a decent amount of Panthers to make it happen. So, Tyreek Hill, this is going to be a very Tyreek Hill-centric video. We're going to talk about him a lot for good reason. He's the best receiver in football. He's been my pick as the best receiver in football for a while, although I think I have said other people within that as well, just because, it's hard to pick just one wide receiver, but, he's the best receiver in football, and he showed it in this game. Like this play, this was a later play in the game, but it's another example of it's zone coverage. There's a corner who's deep. He's the one who, in a typical scenario, the reason why these routes can work is because for a corner, you're in a bit of a tough situation. Your job on this play is to make sure you don't get beat deep, so you have to give up a little bit of space, so then when Hill cuts kind of underneath, then there's usually a bit of a window. You gain a half step because of that. However, on this play, you see Hill's going to, just start off flying down the field, but then when he cuts back, it's not a half step, it's like 7 or 8 steps of separation because, again, the threat of the deep shot. Tyreek Hill has that ability to go deep and get a big touchdown on any play. You can't let him do that. But at the same time, if you don't let him do that and you say, okay, I'm going to cover you deep, then you're just going to, have death by a bunch of 20-yard completions like we see. As you see, Tua makes this throw. Tyreek Hill, decides to step out of bounds. I wonder if this was maybe the first quarter, does he take a tackle here? Good move, though. You're up 14 points at this point. Your offense is rolling. Don't do anything crazy. You got a big chunk play. Don't need to take a hit for 2 extra yards. Go out of bounds. I like that. But I also want to go over to a play like this because I try to make sure I include a play like this or two every single Tua video I mentioned, really Miami Dolphins offensive video I mentioned, just because Tua is doing some legitimately great stuff. Like, we get it. Tyreek Hill is awesome. There are plenty of plays where Tua's throwing to Tyreek Hill and there's no one within 10 yards of him. That's true. There are also plays when this stuff happens, the way the concept works is Tua's going to run a play action and then roll out towards the top of the screen. You have several players who are going to be going towards the top of the screen as well. Those are the options on this play for Tua. Watch as Tua takes the snap, again, runs this fake pitch back. There's, an unblocked man on the edge, which is by design. You hope that the fake gets him out of position. He's keeping pace with Tua, disrupting the play a little bit. On top of it, I mentioned the 3 options down the field. Typically, you do this from shallowest to deepest down the field, but looking at it now, we have it paused. We know that the one that's the most open is the one furthest down the field, but that's tough, right? You're going to be throwing across your body over the middle. You never want to do that, right? Well, look at Tua's throw. Off balance, over the middle, running back across the grain like that. Brett Favre would be proud, right? That's a really difficult throw to pull off, and he's able to do it. And so, again, it's like, yes, it's very true that there are plays when guys just get wide open. There are also plays when that doesn't happen, and Tua is still able to make the most of it. And more often than not, it's stuff like this, where it's a combination of the two, where this is going to be a receiver running over the middle on this 3rd down and 10 situation. That's the way this play is, going to work. Okay, makes sense. Watch as Tua takes the snap. He's going to look down the field, and right here, I'm pausing it right here because the receiver has not started to cut yet, right? He's still running the stem portion of the route, not giving away what he's doing. But Tua is in the throwing motion. Tua is starting to get rid of the football, and that's something that's so important and really, I think, underrated, is knowing when to throw the football and getting rid of the football quickly when you can tell someone's about to get open. This can go wrong, right? The guy who I always bring up is Ryan Fitzpatrick, who would always throw the ball very early. He didn't have a big arm, so he kind of did that to make up for it. Sometimes it would result in really good games. Sometimes it would result in turnovers. Obviously, Fitzpatrick had some sort of an influence on Tua because they were there in Miami in Tua's first year. And we saw back when Tua was getting benched for Fitzpatrick, which was happening. I think maybe Tua learned a thing or two from Fitzpatrick. Also probably just learned a thing or two from the coaches and all that stuff. But, he's throwing with anticipation. Watch him be able to, again, make it perfectly on the money. He doesn't go full Fitzpatrick. He's not throwing it, way before he should be or anything like that. But just gets rid of the football quicker than I think the average quarterback should. And in this system, that's exactly what he should be doing. He should be getting rid of the football quickly. And that's one of the biggest ways he's grown since entering the league, in my opinion, is just learning just how the NFL works, right? That's what a young player has to do. And he's got it down now. There's no denying that. Also, this play, it's going to be a zone coverage concept here. And, at first, I thought this was just a horrendous mistake coaching by Carolina of leaving Tyreek Hill one-on-one on the outside. I actually don't think that's what they're doing. I still think this is a mistake by Carolina, just in a different way. There are 2 safeties deep, and we've seen this happen a couple of times where teams will play 2 safeties deep, but if you're going to do that, you have to make sure a safety is over the top of Tyreek Hill. We know at this point Tyreek Hill is uncoverable one-on-one in press coverage. That's just not possible. You're not winning that matchup. Watch how you're going to see that Tyreek Hill blows by the corner he was supposed to go up against, and the safety who I've circled in black, he just wasn't over it. I'm not sure what you're doing at that point. There was no one else in the area. You have to treat Tyreek Hill as though he is better than just a team's number 1 receiver. It's different. He's better than that. Some guys are unique. Yes, some teams, hey, let's just trust our corners to be able to stay deep if it's a deep route and cover Tyreek Hill. Although in cover 2 zone, you would still like to see your safety get over anyway, so it's already bad from that perspective. But especially in this situation, when it's Tyreek Hill, you have to, if you pay too much attention to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle goes off, okay, you still don't love that. Waddle is very good, but you can live with that a little bit more. If you can find a way to cover both those 2 guys, okay, well now it's is Braxton Berrios going to go off? Again, if he does, you tip your cap and say, good work. Obviously, the running game is very good. Miami has ways to beat you, even if you cover 2 of the best receivers in football in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. At the same time, though, for Tyreek Hill, you have to be able to do a better job than this. Tua ended the day with 262 yards. Tyreek Hill had 163 of them. That can't happen. You can't have a scenario where Tua is passing under 100 yards to people not named Tyreek Hill, and you're losing the football game by this much. But again, that's just what Miami does, right? Is they force you to basically have to pay attention to Tyreek Hill every single play, and sometimes they pay too much attention, and then he's able to, eat you alive underneath, right? He's an incredible talent, and, it's working well. Everything in Miami is working incredibly well. That's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.